You are sitting by a fire. The flames crack and wood smoke fills your lungs. Across the circle, someone catches your eye and holds it. You look away, then you look back. There are no drinks to order, no profile to swipe, no script for what comes next. There is only the firelight on their face and the quiet, ancient question hanging in the air between you. For roughly 300,000 years, this was the closest thing your ancestors had to a first date. The word dating did not exist in any language until the late 19th century. The first recorded use of date to mean a romantic appointment appeared in 1896. The modern ritual, the singles bar, the dinner reservation, the app swipe, the entire performance of romantic auditioning is barely 100 years old. This means that for 99% of human history, your ancestors did not date at all. They did something far stranger. And understanding what that actually was changes everything you think you know about love, attraction, and why modern romance often feels so confusing. The anthropologist Helen Fisher spent 4 decades studying the brain chemistry of romantic attachment. She found that humans are one of only 3% of mammal species that form long-term pair bonds. But here is the detail that matters most. Those bonds were never designed to form in private. In every hunter-gatherer society ever studied by anthropologists, courtship was a communal event. You did not go off alone with a potential partner. That would have been dangerous, impractical, and suspicious. Instead, the entire band participated in the slow process of 2 people deciding whether to spend their lives together. This makes profound evolutionary sense. Human infants are born exceptionally helpless. A newborn cannot hold onto its mother's fur, cannot walk, cannot feed itself. A nursing mother could not gather enough food alone to support herself and her child. Pair bonding was not just a romantic invention. It was a survival strategy that allowed the human species to keep evolving bigger brains at the cost of more dependent babies. Richard Lee lived with the Kung San people of the Kalahari Desert in the 1960s and documented a courtship system that would make any modern dater's head spin. Among the Kung, a woman's first marriage was typically discussed by her family before she reached puberty. But here is the twist. The system was far more flexible than outsiders assumed. If a young woman did not like the man chosen for her, she simply refused to sleep in his hut. Night after night, she returned to her parents' fire, and eventually the arrangement dissolved. No fight, no drama, no confrontation, just a silent, culturally accepted veto that everyone understood. Among the Hadza of Tanzania, studied by anthropologist Frank Marlowe over 2 decades, the system was even more direct. Women chose their partners openly by offering them food. A Hadza woman interested in a man would share the honey or berries she had gathered that day. If he accepted and ate with her, the message was unmistakable. If he declined, she moved on. No ambiguity, no guesswork. A piece of fruit was a love letter, and everyone in camp knew how to read it. This is the thing modern dating culture has completely inverted. Your ancestors did not need to wonder whether someone was interested. The signals were direct, public, and backed by the entire community. There was no, "What does this text mean?" because there were no texts. There was only the fire, the shared food, and the question of whether you wanted to build a life beside another person, witnessed by everyone you knew. So let us reconstruct what a prehistoric courtship might have actually looked like. You are a woman in a band of around 30 people, living somewhere in East Africa roughly 50,000 years ago. You have known every person in your group since birth. There are no strangers. You have watched the man you are interested in hunt, share meat, tend the fire, tell stories, and sit quietly with the elders since you were both children. There is no blind date. There is no awkward getting-to-know-you phase because you already know everything that matters. You have seen him fail and get back up. You have seen him give away his last piece of meat to a hungry elder. You have seen him hold someone else's crying child with gentleness. And he has seen you. He has watched you dig for tubers in the midday heat, carry heavy water back to camp, comfort a frightened toddler, and settle arguments without raising your voice. He knows your patience and your temper, your strength and your sharp edges. There is no carefully curated first impression. When you decide you want to be with him, you do not send a message. You simply start sitting closer to him at the fire. You share your food. You help him with his tasks. And slowly, without a word being spoken, the entire group notices. The grandmothers watch with quiet knowing. The children giggle and point. The other men tease him relentlessly. The courtship is not a private negotiation between 2 individuals. It is a public performance, witnessed and shaped by everyone who matters. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied the Kung for decades and showed that campfire conversations, storytelling, jokes, gossip, singing, were the primary social stage where romantic interest was tested and revealed. A well-timed joke across the flames could carry more romantic weight than any love letter. And here is the counterintuitive truth modern dating has completely abandoned. Privacy was not desirable. It was dangerous. To be alone together meant you could not be protected. It meant the group could not vouch for your partner's true character. It meant that if things went wrong, no one would know and no one could help. The most desirable partners in prehistoric societies were the ones with the most public social proof. A man who shared meat generously was not just being kind. He was showing he would be a reliable partner. A woman who cared for children and managed her work skillfully was proving exactly the abilities that kept the group alive. There was no separation between attractive and trustworthy. They were the same thing. Attraction was not a feeling you discovered on a private date. It was a conclusion the community helped you reach, built on years of watching someone live their life in plain sight. Once the bond was formed, the pair did not go off to live alone. They remained embedded in the band. The man continued hunting with the other men. The woman continued gathering with the other women. Their child was held, fed, and cared for by everyone. This is where the grandmother hypothesis comes in. In most mammal species, females remain fertile until death. But human women go through menopause, often decades before the end of their lives. The leading theory is that grandmothers who stopped having their own children were free to help feed and raise their grandchildren, allowing mothers to have more babies closer together, which drove the rapid expansion of the human brain. Your romantic bond did not exist in isolation. It was supported by a web of relationships stretching across generations, all of them essential for the survival of every child born into the group. Let us return to the brain science. Helen Fisher's neuroimaging studies revealed that the human romantic love system activates in a precise chemical pattern, a surge of dopamine and norepinephrine, coupled with a drop in serotonin that makes you focus obsessively on one person. Your pupils dilate, your heart races, you lose sleep, you lose your appetite. Fisher showed that this system evolved specifically to encourage pair bonding in early humans. But it evolved in a world where you already lived in the same small group as everyone you might fall for, where you already had years of first-hand observation about any potential partner. Your brain is still wired to fall in love the way your ancestors did, but you are now trying to use that ancient wiring in a world it was never designed for. You are trying to navigate a dating app with a 300,000-year-old brain. This is why modern dating feels so deeply confusing. Your brain expects a village. It expects years of observation. It expects shared meals and campfire gossip and the quiet wisdom of elders. Instead, it gets a 3-second swipe decision and a coffee date with someone whose last name you do not fully know. The Kung had a practice called xaro, a formalized gift exchange that could launch a romantic bond. A man or woman would give their chosen partner a meaningful object, a digging stick, a strand of ostrich shell beads, a piece of meat. If the gift was accepted and later reciprocated, the bond was underway. If the gift was returned, everyone understood the answer. Imagine a dating culture where your first move was not a carefully worded text, but a publicly offered gift, and the response was not a message left on read, but an equally public acceptance or return. No ambiguity, no ghosting, no wondering, just a clear, community-witnessed yes or no. Of course, prehistoric courtship was not always gentle. Mating strategies varied across cultures and time periods, and not all pairings were voluntary. The archaeological record shows that abduction between groups, female infanticide, and coerced unions were real and painful parts of the human story that cannot be ignored. But it is also true that in the vast majority of hunter-gatherer societies studied, women maintained significant autonomy over their long-term partnerships. Divorce was common and carried no stigma. A woman who was unhappy with her partner could simply walk back to her family's hearth, and the bond was considered dissolved. Anthropologist Kim Hill worked with the Ache people of Paraguay and found that roughly 2/3 of marriages ended in divorce over a lifetime. Remarriage happened quickly. Children were raised by the entire band, not just their biological parents. The nuclear family as we know it, 2 parents living alone with their children in a private home, was almost completely absent in prehistoric life. The idea of the one, a single perfect partner destined for you, is a very modern invention. Prehistoric humans formed multiple partnerships over a lifetime. Love was real, but it was practical, communal, and flexible. Your ancestors did not expect one person to be their everything. They had a village for that. You were never meant to do this alone. You were never meant to find a partner alone. You were never meant to raise children alone. The entire structure of modern dating, private, individual, severed from community, may be the strangest, loneliest experiment human beings have ever run on themselves. So the next time you find yourself sitting across from someone you barely know, trying to decide if you like them based on a single conversation, consider this. You are doing something your ancestors would have found almost incomprehensible. You are trying to form the most important bond of your life in the absence of everything that bond was designed to need. You are looking for love without a village. And yet, remarkably, your brain still knows what to do. Across a crowded room, your pupils still dilate. Your heart still pounds. The same dopamine surge that helped your ancestor recognize their partner in the firelight 50,000 years ago lights up in your brain at the sight of someone you barely know. The wiring is still there. It has always been there. It is just trying to do its job in a world it was never built for. You are sitting across from someone new under fluorescent lights. The air smells like coffee instead of wood smoke. No elders are watching. No children are giggling. No fire crackles between you. But somewhere deep in your skull, the same ancient circuit is flickering to life, asking the same question it has always asked. Can I trust this person? Will they share what they have when I am hungry? Will they stay when things get hard? Is this the one I want beside me when the sun goes down and the world goes quiet? You do not have a village anymore. You do not have the fire or the elders or the slow, patient months of knowing. But your brain, 300,000 years old, stubborn, and still wired for a world that no longer exists, is still quietly looking for one.